Dear students, my name is Shyam Kumar and I am an assistant professor in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arga Jain University, Jharkhand. Let us start this class with the definitions of news. The word news is derived from the Latin word nova. It can also be traced into Sanskrit as nav, meaning new. Any current event which arouses the interest in people is news. The news which arouses the interest in many people is the best news. News is the current information on all events based on facts, situation, or form. It is an information meant for the people who are interested in it. News is that thrilling information which satisfies the individual curiosity. Prominent journalists have given their own definitions of news. Some of these definitions are anything that will make the people talk. News is anything timely that interests a number of persons, and the best news is that which has the greatest interest for the greatest number of people. Now I'll be teaching you about news values. News values provide the criteria in the routine practice of journalism which enables journalists, editors and newsmen to decide routinely and regularly which stories are newsworthy and which are not. So what are news values? It is very much important for the journalist because on the basis of news values, the journalist decides, or these are the criteria on the basis of which a journalist decides which story to be covered and which stories are not to be covered on the basis of its value or the newsworthy or the newsworthiness. So these are the criteria which helps a journalist to decide which stories to be covered or which stories are important and which stories are not important. News values are also the qualities that maintain readers' interest in the news. Some of the news values are timeliness. News must be timely, which is of utmost importance to the reader. Any information which arrives even an hour late is not a news. It can turn into information. If it is not timely, and information is not necessarily news. News is only news for a day, after which it turns into information, history, or event of truth. Another news value is proximity. We understand news only in terms of our environment or experience. The closer the place is geographically to the reader, the more the value of the news item. Readers have a tendency of reading news within their geographical area, and in such news readers, and in such kind of news, the news readers also show interest in reading them. Another news value is prominence. News about people or events that are widely known, all that is already famous or newsworthy is given due attention by the media. For example, coverage of Olympics, speech delivered by the Prime Minister, etc. Another news value is maintenance of status quo. The media regularly gives importance to the person or event that is already important and is already in news. This is called maintaining status quo. Even common happenings with important people are given coverage because of the prominent position enjoyed by the person in the society. The readers are always interested in reading about big and small things about famous people. Now, the next news value is status conferral. Newspapers have the capacity to make person famous overnight. Any unusual or remarkable feat by an ordinary person can be given coverage in the media, making the person important or prominent. Important things happening with common people makes them important people, at least for a period of time. Another news value is consequence. Sometimes the news is important because of the result or the effects of that news. All events that happen after the news report are important. This type of news reports lead to variety of follow-ups in the form of interpretative stories, features, columns, and so on. This kind of stories cannot be given once and forgotten. It needs to be followed up regularly and noted. Example, the news story about lack of infrastructure and basic facilities in the local hospital may have serious implications. Another news value is rarity. Anything unusual, odd or uncommon, anything out of ordinary has an element of human interest and therefore concerned newsworthy or with news value. Example, tigress looks after three puppies in the zoo, and it is common in journalistic parlance to say if dog bites a man is not a news, but if man bites a dog, it is a news. So such kind of news comes under rarity news value. Another news value is magnitude. How much, how many, how big, how fast. Example, a million is bigger news than 1,000. Everything else being equal. Example, a plane crash that kills 205 is bigger news than that kills 5. Another news value is significance. Whether the event promises or change the course of history, an event's significance is determined by how many person it will affect, to what extent, and for how long. Example, the Agra summit between General Pervez Musharraf of Pakistan and Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the then Prime Minister of India, the significance of the summit was too great for the Indian subcontinent. So such kind of news comes under significance news value. Another news value is novelty. Stories that are odd, unusual, shocking, or surprising have novelty value. For example, would be a story about an unusual animal friendship, such as that between a dog and a deer, because such a friendship is not a normal occurrence. It sparks the curiosity of audiences. Now, the next topic is nose for news. Let us learn what is nose for news. A news reporter can feel the importance of even an ordinary event and present it in a context of its significance. His research in this respect gives new turn to the news. The concept of nose for news has the following features. It is the ability to perceive events that are newsworthy, the ability to uncover fact that will enable proper contextualization of the event, ability to exhibit a good news judgment all the time, ability to preserve in the search for more details, ability to utilize the information or clues gathered which will make the story sound more interesting. Also, the ability to use the gathered fact in a way that it will yield more information about an event. Next topic is dynamics of news values. The first dynamics of news values is change. So what is change dynamics in news value? If nothing happens, there will be no change, but every moment there is a change. The bigger the change and the more the people are affected by this change, the more important it is from the news point of view. Another dynamics of news value is conflict. Wars, threats of war, or threats leading to war, smaller conflicts leading to crimes, strikes, demonstrations, conflicting ideas, tensions, and suspense associated with conflicts. These comes under the conflict dynamics of news value. Another is disaster. What comes under disaster? Natural calamity and man-made event. Such dynamics also create news. Now, the another dynamics of news value is progress, positive result of effort made by society. Example, new remedies, new inventions, new devices. If such, as the example I have given of new remedies, new inventions, or new devices, etc., such things are the part of the news. Okay. Consequences. Consequences is the another dynamics of news value. The immediate and long-term consequences of an event makes news. The more people it affects, the greater the consequence. The greater the consequence, the more the news value it has. Another is eminence and prominence. What is an eminence and prominence? Eminence means involvement of eminent personalities in an event adds to its news value. Prominence. What is prominence? Prominence, many a times it built up by the media. People are interested in them because they are familiar. A big chunk of news of media are about people who are always known or who are known. Another dynamics of news value is timeliness. Old news is no news. News is highly perishable commodity, and therefore every medium tries to give the least available to score a point over the others. Another dynamics of news value is proximity. News about neighborhood is of more news value to a person. And the next dynamics of news value is novelty. It is common in journalistic parlance to say if dog bites a man is not a news, but if man bites a dog, it is news. Such kind of news will be considered a news with novelty value. Another dynamics of news value is human interest. News value with emotional context of the news event, anything familiar that stirs his feelings. Human interest content of stories is higher when ordinary persons are involved in extraordinary situations, an adventure, a disaster, or a victory. Human interest is also involved when it depicts extraordinary persons in ordinary situations. Now, the next topic is types of news. The news could be of two types: direct news or informative news, and descriptive news. The direct news represents the facts as is, where is, without any description. The informative or descriptive news are given after thorough examination and verification. This type of news include the background of the events and the anticipated consequences as well. Now, from the importance point of view, there are two types of news: spot news and spread news. Now, what is spot news? These are the news which could be anticipated or forecast. These are based on the events taking place all of a sudden, and they are generally printed on the front page of the newspaper. Now, next news is spread news. On the importance point of view, these are the descriptive news and are generally accompanied by a box news also, because such news are big in size and are generally accompanied by a box news also, because such news are big in size and their reputations or clarifications is also given side by side. It makes the news more interesting. Now, the news can be divided into two classes based on news material they carry: expected news and unexpected news. Now, what is expected news? These are the news which can be forecast: social, economic, educational, sports, literacy, literary and cultural activities, etc. Now, another class of news is unexpected news. These are the news which cannot be forecast or forethought. These can take place anywhere at any time: natural calamities, accidents, or criminal acts. Some come under these category. So, such kind of news like natural calamities, accidents, or criminal acts are unexpected news, which such kind of news comes under this category. Now, let us learn about the classification of news. News can be divided into the following four classes: local news, regional news, inland news. Inland news is the news are the news which are of your nation or the country, and another last one is international news. So, news can be divided into the following four classes, and which are the classifications of the news. These are local news, regional news, inland news, and international news. I hope you have learned all the topics properly which I have taught in this online class. Have a nice day.